What's going on? Real quick, we're gonna have a conversation that's centered around authenticity. It's something that I believe we need to have more of a conversation about because it's not something that everybody is talking about. How we can show up as the most authentic version of ourselves. Well, I mean, I guess something that we can even talk about is, do we know what the most authentic version of ourselves is, and do we have a level of comfortability with that? And this conversation, the reason why I'm bringing it to you is because it's something that I have talks and I guess just conversations about, like, more and more it seems. I know recently we were I was at this conference, and this lady shared this with me. She says, "Hey, I got a question for you. What if there's a work version of me, right? And I speak at work, I behave at work a certain type of way, but when I go home, I communicate different. I behave different." And I remember sitting there, thinking about, like, how to respond appropriately, to this question. And I was like, the version of you that you are at home is the real you. That's a more authentic version of yourself. That individual you are at work, that is like a mass version. That is an accepted version of you. What you feel other people accept about you. And this thought has kind of been something that's on my mind because I was doing another, actually, the live that me and my wife did. It was somebody commented under that video and was talking about, like, what if I can be kind of like a more authentic version of myself at work, but I'm not able to be, that authentic version of myself at home. I mean, I was just like, man, how many people are showing up? Think about this. How many people are showing up in their marriages, in their work, and their relationships as a brother, sister, father, mother, son, all the roles and all the different, the capacities that you occupy. How many people are showing up like not really them? I believe this whole journey of authenticity, unfortunately, it takes a turn too early on in life. I see it far too often. Just think about this, for all of you all that either have kids or work in a space to where you're around young people. You can see uh, them kind of like shifting their thoughts and opinions to an accepted version. It's like, I don't want to say the wrong thing, which there is no wrong thing, but is what you believe others want to say. And I think this is something that, as parents, it's something that we need to be mindful of. Are we shaping the way our children kind of like code switch and kind of like lean less and less to being authentically who they are, by the way in which we parent, by the way in which we're accepting of that version of them. And it's like kind of the difference in buying a suit that, you go to, I don't know, whatever store you get your suit from, but there's a different feeling that you have when you got a tailored suit, when that thing is custom fit to match everything that is you. And I think too many of us have become comfortable in spaces, relationships, whether it be romantic or friends, whether it be work environments, that it's a suit, right? You can wear it, it fits, but does it really fit you? It's like a pair of shoes that's half a size too big. You can walk in them, right? But is it a little bit uncomfortable? Could a half size, smaller, be something that's like to where you can walk better, to where you feel way more comfortable in it? Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that we have to really, like, go on this journey of discovering, like, what works best for me. Who am I? And I think about this, like, I think a lot of times, like, depending on when you met me, there's like a version of me that you probably remember, especially if you know me from a while ago. A lot of people know me as kind of like a guy that is always in the midst of things, always a lively, the life of the party type of individual, very much so, bring a lot of energy. And like on this journey of me even discovering like what works for me, what is the most authentic version of me, I realized that different spaces and places, there's a way in which I like to do them. And so I'll say it like this: when I'm around people, that is a place to where I'm comfortable. That's a place where I thrive. I don't care if it's new people. I don't care if it's people I've known for 20, 30, 40, whatever it is. Like I feel I thrive in those settings, and I'm not a different person when I meet somebody new versus when somebody has known me for forever. But there's also a version of me that that if you experience me when we had a problem, you would not know that version of myself. It would seem like it was a different version of me, but the authentic version of me depends on the context. It depends on how I'm wired or how I do certain things. And I think for me, that was a journey for myself because I saw myself in a lot of ways how a lot of people saw me. This is the version of you that we like. This is the version of you that we accept. But I realized that as I've like learned more about myself, I realized that that's an aspect of me, but that's not the full me. And kind of what I was referencing just a little bit earlier is that you see that um, at a very early age that people begin to kind of like adapt to what is accepted by others, not what I desire, not what is best for me, not how I really feel. I give this example when a lot of times when I'm speaking, I ask the question, "How are you doing?" And everybody says good. And it is statistically impossible for everyone to feel the same way at the same time. So why in the world would you ask a question and everybody respond the same way? Literally, after about a minute of sharing that, I'll ask the question again. Somebody may say tired. Somebody may say frustrated, exhausted. They say the truth, but in that moment, we kind of just default to, well, what do they want to hear? Like what is appealing to the individuals that are around me? What doesn't rock the boat, right? And we begin to show up less and less each and every single day of who we are. And quite honestly, that is not a recipe for success. When you think about what makes you you, you are your best. I don't care what it is you're doing, I don't care where you're at. You're your best when you're just being who you are. There's a quote that says, like, be yourself because everybody else is taken. And it's like so many people say stuff like that to where it kind of like gets watered down. But that's a truth that I don't think enough people are talking about as it relates to not just being who you are, but like what is going to lead you to success in everything that you do. Right? Because like if I'm trying to walk around in shoes that do not fit me, if I'm trying to be like someone else and wear their clothes and trying to like make this thing look like something that somebody else is okay with, but more and more I feel less and less like myself, I'm not going to be at my best. It's impossible for me to be at my best. And for you, it's impossible for you as well. So, what do we do with that? Number one, we have to identify, okay, am I being authentically who I want to be in my marriage, in my work, in my relationships, in every space and place that I show up? Am I really bringing my opinions, my true thoughts, right? The way in which I would normally handle this situation. Am I doing that And if the answer to that is yes, great. If the answer to that is no, what's stopping you? What's stopping you? Why is there a discomfort for you in saying that, in approaching in whatever way that you would normally like to do that? Because that is where the journey begins. And if it's because, oh, well, if I say it that way, then they are going to respond in this way, or they may not like that. I'm going to say this because I'm talking about authenticity. That's not your problem. More of a problem for you is that you're not being authentically you. That's a major issue. And when nobody is operating in authenticity, and let's say one person decides to do it, or like somebody is like just embracing fully who they are, that looks uncomfortable. And we begin to make comments and statements like can you tone it down a little bit? Can you be less of who you are? And if we're not careful, we will start accepting and start what? Toning it down, being less and less of who we are, and whatever that means for you. When the reality is that maybe that person that's telling you to tone it down hasn't turned it up in a long period of time. So they're speaking from a place of envy because I don't like the fact that you're okay being you. So I want you to operate in a space that I've had to operate in. All right. I'm going to say it again. Maybe, just maybe, individuals are not commenting based on how they really feel, but it's been based on their experience and how they've had to code switch and how they've had to navigate in order for them to persevere, in order for them to stay employed, in order for them to continue doing everything. But if you ask them how they really feel, they're saying good. And if their response is that good, when you know that they're tired, when they've had conversation about that, we know that they're masking their reality in a lot of different ways. And too many people are living life every single day that way. And there's a higher levels of frustration, higher levels of anxiety, higher levels of depression, higher levels of, or it's lower levels of job satisfaction, being satisfied with life in general. And I believe one thing is at the core of that, especially like in the context of what I'm talking about right now: authenticity. It's like, I can't be me. And it is hard to do anything, life, marriage, business, work, when you have to be what other people want you to be, but you can't truly be who you are. And this conversation I wanted to have tonight was more so just like thought provoking. Like, this isn't something where I'm going to go and provide a lot of depth or even go into much more. But my challenge for you, anybody that is watching this live or anybody that gets opportunity to watch this on a replay, is to self-evaluate. And those questions that I asked not too long ago, are you showing up as the most authentic version of yourself? Yes or no? Okay? If it's yes, there's every single one of y'all to say yes to that, y'all can exit. Right? Y'all good. But if the answer to that is no, start identifying the individuals around you to where you feel like you have to switch it up the most. What is it about that individual, right? Now we start doing some assessment. Now we start like taking some data points. And when we start collecting this data, we can start finding out, is this type of person that feels this way about me doing X, Y, and Z? We start understanding context, right? Because the context of home is different than the context of work. It's different than the context of in-person and virtual. Like, there is so many different nuances as it relates to how you show up in different places around, doing certain things. so many different layers that go to it that you have to really be self-aware. And in this context, I show up like this and in this. So I'm saying that to say this, like when you start collecting this data, when you start understanding that it's work to where I shift the most. And it's not just work, it's work around my boss, right? It's work around this certain, employee or a colleague or staff member. It's my marriage, like the example I gave earlier. Like, what is it about this that is not allowing me to show up the way I desire for it to be? And those are the individuals that you need to start having conversations with, not tomorrow, yesterday. Because until you start, I want to say this in a way to where I'm not going to cue that. Until you start like fighting against and just not continuing to accept the way that they are, you've decided to accept a reality that allows for you to be a fraction of who you are and a fraction of what you could do, because you are more comfortable with them being okay, more comfortable with them being more comfortable with them being okay, and less comfortable with you being okay with who you are, you being okay with how you want to communicate, you being okay with how you want to do things. And if somebody else is the most important person in your life to where you make decisions based off them and not make decisions based off you, you, my friend, are going to have a very challenging time. I think this is a space that more people need to really think and consider. Am I really showing up as the most authentic version of myself? And how is that impacting me? Because you can say yes to, an environment that's not good for you. It's like, I got to stay here because, it does this, that, and the third. How's your mental health? How's your marriage? How are your kids? How are you as a son? How are you as a daughter? So you may be saying yes to one thing, but what are all the things you have to say no to, right? In order for you to be okay in that environment, in order for you to be okay in that space. And is it worth it? That's the question I have. If it's worth it, keep showing up as a less authentic version of yourself. If not, it's time to really think, what does it take for me to really show up as myself? For me to be okay with saying things that way, for me to be okay doing things that way. And am I okay with making somebody else uncomfortable so that I can be comfortable? That's all I want y'all to consider. Hopefully you all are having a great start to your week. It's a Tuesday. As you know, we get together and we have conversations like this, but I wanted this conversation to be something that was more so personal. And I've had way too many conversations recently that not only are centered around people code switching and having to feel like they have to do things that are appealing to others, but also at the same way, other people not taking you into consideration or not taking others into consideration. So they're good as long as they can continue to be true to themselves, as long as you have to change up who you are so that they can be comfortable. And yeah, that's a very challenging space to be in. That's something I'm committed to helping more people operate in, and that's the space of authenticity. So for all you out alive, I thank you so much for joining me and tapping in. Until next time.